Okay, we're starting our Mythic Games store tour for sections for employees. Starting on the back on the left side, this is our storage boxes and binder sleeve selection. We've got our Ultimate Guard here. All of our Ultimate Guard is on the left side. We've got some on the right side as well, but we also have a lot of our Magic themed products like the binders and the life pads. Then we go into binders or the play mats that are also Magic themed. Then Magic themed minis and Magic themed Planeswalker. Also got some hanging out Dragon Shield up here and some random play mats. Then we come over here. Our Game Genic stuff is all in the Game Genic racks. The new Bastion stuff we have right here, or Bastion, and then we have our bigger stuff on the bottom there. When somebody asks for dice towers, we have a few in different places. These ones are over in the Game Genic, same with these dice trays. Most of our dice trays and dice towers are together, but these are the exception because it's part of the line. So make sure that you are keeping these in mind when talking about dice trays, dice accessories. And then we've got the binders for Game Genic here, with some extra binder pages that would work for those. Well, actually, these don't have the 3-ring binders. The pages mostly function for the binders that have the rings in them. We've got the playmats or playmat tubes down here, and then our hanging binder selection here with the Vivids and the Dexes. For all of our Dragon Shield binders, they are down here at the bottom, along with those 3 ring binders that we were talking about for the binder pages. Then we've got all of our deck boxes. This middle fixture pretty much covers what we don't actually have branded for the Game Genic and Ultimate Guard shelving. So that covers like Ultra Pro, Monster products, and some other kind of random small stuff. But this is where you'll find our wall scrolls that are Magic themed, all of our standard lower cost sleeves and deck boxes, the Vivids and Ultra Pros, the Eclipse deck boxes, as well as our satins, which are here. Then we've got our build your own station here. We've got Dragon Shield playmats and boxes, and then Dragon Shields. But also those BCW extra big card holders are up there. Mostly overstock goes on those top shelves because they're difficult to reach. All right, our commander decks are usually put up here. Our newer playmats are on the counter as opposed to the ones hanging, which are a little from older sets or specialized separate sets. We've got all of our basic 52 card decks and all of the shapes and sizes they can come in. We've got little air decks that are skinnier. We've got lots of different themes for those. Bridge players love those. Then our art cards. And then this is often where we put our new product merch. So with the newest set, we'll have this right near the front of the counter. 2 reasons for that, where people are going to be looking for those more, and they're also more likely to be stolen. So being on watch is a better place for those. Here we have more Magic themed deck boxes and sleeves. On the flip side of this is our Steve Jackson stuff. Steve Jackson is a very popular designer that you'll probably know them from Munchkin. but it covers pretty much everything they make with the exception of Ogre, which is a war game, so it's in war games. This fixture is our pop culture fixture. So it has everything from video games to TV shows to movies. Good one to direct people that don't really know what they're looking for, because if they're looking for something like a gift, they'll probably know, hey, this person is really interested in this video game or this TV show or this movie. So easy to find something that will fit for people on this table. This fixture on the very left here is our party game section. All of the Cards Against Humanity kind of front and center here. Then lower you have similar games. Cyanide and Happiness make Joking Hazard, which is similar kind of gameplay. Same with What Do You Meme? Really great for big games, really great for non-gamery kinds of gamers. So with the holidays coming up, definitely keep in mind that those are the kinds of games people are going to be looking for to get them through that family time on Thanksgiving and Christmas. We've got some games out of place. These are all Oink games. They are a popular little designer for making small portable games like that. They're typically made for kind of light and party situations as well. And are great for portability for like going to breweries or travel or whatever. So another one to keep in mind is the designers of Oatmeal, the comic. They make their own line of games. I believe the company is just called Exploding Kittens, but there's a lot more to that line at this point. One over, we've got our children and family games. Usually if somebody has a family with smaller kids in it, ages probably 8 and up, this is a great area to look. But we also have things that appeal to kids as young as 3 in this Haba younger kids section. So if you have somebody looking for family games for the holidays or gifts for their kids or something to try to get their kids into gaming, take them here. A lot of dexterity games too in this section. You'll find Ice Cool is like that, and this Planks types games are also. Then you get over to this fixture. This is our Marvel and superhero fixture. It has a couple of bigger games on it, like Marvel Champions, DC deck building, and then Legendary as well. But it also has any game that has that licensed version of a superhero on it as well. Behind that, you've got some of our fast, easy learn card games, Flux and Lunacy. Kind of goes along with the party game and Steve Jackson, which is why it's over here. On the back side, you've got the beginning of our D&D section. So these are all of our dragons. Dragons are separated from the rest because they're kind of the star of the theme, but also they just don't really fit on the other side. So we gave them their own little section. Below that, we've got what we have for Critical Role, very popular podcast and YouTubers that play D&D. Then our fixture over is the medium-sized monsters that are hanging here. And then on the opposite side, we've got those continued. This wall in between the actual RPG sections is all of our races and classes. We've got those organized by alphabet, and then lower we've got some of like the doors and the NPCs like town guards and familiars, and also the larger medium-sized races and classes are on the bottom there. We also have our boosters, which are just randomized minis based on this set that they come from, which is attached to an adventure typically. And the smaller boosters are on this wall. And then these are all of our monsters and creatures. Same thing, organized by alphabetically. So you should be able to find everything you're looking for there. Then we've got our Pathfinder section, and that encompasses all of this down to here. Then our epic encounters, and then some random D&D product. Pathfinder minis and collections of minis, mostly pre-painted. Then we've got our adventure cards down there. This is where our D&D starts. Lots of books, collections, and then accessories as well. Our larger dragons can be found on top. Then you get into more painted minis, learn to paint minis, some terrain options. Then you get your token collections and spell cards, and then we've got our battle mats down here. The Game Master maps are also included with the books. We've got a few more terrain options up here. These are our larger monsters, but without dragons. And these are all of our alternate RPGs. So you'll find some of the smaller ones like Alien and Shadowverse and Vampire, even things like Kids on Bikes and like Dread is fairly well known but very small. A lot of licensed ones are here too. There's the Marvel ones, the Dune ones, there's even like the Terminator. So good ones to point to somebody looking for a little something different. That also continues over here with Star Trek and Star Wars and Power Rangers and all kinds of good stuff. Then you get down into board games that are Dungeons and Dragons specific. They're either themed Dungeons and Dragons or made by the company Dungeons and Dragons, or both. So that is this section here, and then it kind of continues into D&D merch and RPG merch, including our battle mats and terrain maps for those kinds of things. And then we get into your dungeon crawl style games. So all of these shelves here, and then all of these games are usually RPG, dungeon crawler style games. That means that they're typically more story driven and will literally involve a dungeon a lot of times, or at least have more story and options that you can make yourself. Going along with Dungeons and Dragons, this right next to the register is where we keep a lot of stuff that play well with RPGs. So that's dice towers. These are dice mats that fold out, and they also keep your dice, their dice holder, dice rollouts, random dice, mystery dice. Here we've got our pre-painted individual minis. If you're looking for something specifically and don't want to try your luck with the boosters, we have that as an option. Dice bags and rolling trays. And then we've got snacks, drinks, and then begins our dice selection. All of this is dice and or dice accessories. These are random dice for D&D. We have some plushies, a lot of which will actually hold your dice, like these dice plushies. Boss. And then additional dice bags over here. Those may move, we'll see. But for now, that's where we've got them. More dice. And more dice. So when people ask for dice, make sure to point them to the entire area. Then we come over onto this side of the counter. This is what starts our alternative TCGs. So basically not the top one, which is Magic. This is everything else, including our next two top, which are Pokemon and Flesh and Blood and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are our next top three after Magic. So all of that is going to be found on this side of the counter. This has all of our sealed product that we can't fit in the pack dispensers or that are in whole boxes. And then this is all of our Pokemon singles. And all of our dispensers for said games. Then we've got all of our decks for Pokemon, our precons. Some more precons. Our binders. We're out of room for binders, so make sure that when people are asking about them, you tell them that there are multiple binders in the same rung. More precons for those alternative card games. So when people are looking to get started, always great to point them in the direction of our precons. Then what little we have for Lorcana is here for merch and here for singles. All right, next we'll go with our alternative island. So some of our bigger products and collections, binders and playmats are going to be located here. And then this is Pokemon Island, which only has Pokemon stuff, but everything from collection blisters to tokens and tins, ETBs, etc., etc. Those are some pencil cases, a lot of different options here, deck boxes, and carrying cases, mini binders. So that covers alternative card games. Over here, we've got our puzzle section, which we are working on expanding. Then we've got our sales rack. Everything on there is either an expansion we don't have a base for, or a damaged product, or something that they have repackaged that now kind of makes the old packaging obsolete. Then we start our sections. This is our 2-player section. Everything on this side is going to be 2-player only, cannot go past 2 players. Then you get into your classics, which include a lot of 2 players, so it's kind of all together. Chess obviously is a 2-player game. Corridor, both kind of qualify as classics and 2 players. So just 2-player section and classics over here. Then we kind of go over to the same kind of concept on this side. We've got our co-op and single. Co-ops and singles can usually play as such. So co-ops can work as solo games, and solo games can work, solo games usually can only work as solo, but anything that's co-op can usually play as solo. So we've got our solos over here that either work great for 1 and more, or only work for 1, like Final Girl. And then we've got our co-op section. The big one of this section is Pandemic. It's good to familiarize yourself with at least a couple of games per big section to know of. Classics, is probably easy. Chess, checkers, Baldergast. Onitama is a good one to remember for 2 players. Jaipur, Seven Wonders Duel. And then over here, begins the start of our Euro games. We kind of start that with Catan as kind of a flagship game, but a lot of these games all kind of have similar themes and or similar play styles. We call them Euros because they were popularized for being more strategy based by European designers. They are now kind of the standard in gaming. Linear, some people refer to them as Euro trash games, or stuff like Monopoly and Mousetrap and Life. We've come a long way from that because of Euro style gaming. The gateway game, often we refer to Catan for that kind of European style idea and strategy. We've got Catan accessories, and then we start kind of putting our smaller card games that work in the Euro section here, and or more accessories for other games. Like Carcassonne has some extra stuff over here, and then we've got some singular board games as well. The Agricola expansion's going to be down here, work better on these shelves than on the big shelves. So if you're looking for an expansion that you can't find, make sure to check the slat in between. Then you go over into more Euros. Dominion is one of the bigger, premier, older games for Euro style deck building. Good one to know. Century Spice Road, a very popular and great game. It's fairly recent, within the last 10 years. Good one to suggest, solid game that a lot of people really like. Then we have things like Agricola, Uwe Rosenberg games. He's got a lot of different types of games, but the vast chunk of them are right here. He's a very well-known designer and makes really great games. Got into more of our Euro games here. You can kind of see there's some mini sections. Quacks of Quedlinburg, big game, well known as well. Then you kind of see the subsection here. You get into some like Greek and UK themed games. Over here we have what we call the tea games. People know what you're talking about there, but they have the same kind of designers and the same kind of strategy level, and they're all kind of similarly themed. And then you come down and you can see another kind of subsection is like South America, then South Africa and Egypt, Middle East, all kind of grouped together by region. We've got some more smaller games here on the end cap that will, whenever you see something on the end cap, it's linked to the things that are not on the end cap. So you see like food stuff there. Our food section's over here. You see Azul. Azul is an abstract strategy over there. You'll see lanterns and Hokkaido. The Asian region games are over here. So whenever you see something on the slat, it's supposed to go near something that isn't. Okay, so then Asia region. A couple to note here. Machikoro is a really good kind of deck building game-ish. Takkaido is a popular, well-known game about kind of push your luck and or push people out of your way. Then we've got down here are kind of our all big battle-esque large mini games. Rising Sun, Kemet, Lords of Ragnarok, they're all the same kind of battle game. Big pieces, expensive games, and a lot of warfare. And they're all kind of grouped together. So really just kind of pick your theme. Okay, then we get into pirates, Viking themes games. We get into food at the top there. And then lower we go into art. Dixit is a well-known game featuring really great art. We've got, let's see, what do we know from food? Bonanza is a well-known little game based in food. Sushi Go is another popular game based in food. So this is abstract strategy. Azul, Sagrada, two of the big ones for abstract strategy. Beautiful games, but also have a lot of good strategy. Then you get down into animals. Isle of Cats is a big one. It kind of functions for abstract strategy and animals because it's a puzzle laying game or a puzzle tile game. And Ark Nova is another like standout game for animal style or animal themed games. Expansions and smaller games for those sections between here and here. Over here we've got our nature and science games, so anything that kind of focuses around flora, fauna, evolution, different animals and terrains are going to be in the nature and science section. So this section is going to kind of cover a little bit of that and that, with the exception of Tiny Epic Galaxies. That covers almost everything. So that's just its own section within sections. Then you get into dinosaurs coming after our evolution section. You can see how that kind of ties together. And then you get into adventure section. So these are going to be things like treasure hunting and stranded on an island, those kinds of themes, exploring new worlds. Then let's start at the bottom here. We're definitely going to have to fix up some of these sections. But this is sports and kind of like still tying into that adventure theme, exploring the worlds, going on adventures, big races, stuff like that. Into fantasy, we've got, this is pretty much one of the only licensed that isn't on the licensed table, or pop culture that isn't on the pop culture table. It's a big enough section where it wouldn't fit over there, and it's very, very fantasy, so hard to take it away from the fantasy section. So Lord of the Rings is over here. We've got Red Raven Games, definitely worth noting. Red Raven is an excellent company that puts out really great games. One of their more popular ones is the Sleeping Gods, but all of them are good quality and good mid-level games to play. Then more fantasy and expansion, deck building options for that fantasy. More fantasy. This little subsection within fantasy is kind of your fairy tale-esque kinds of things. So Robin Hood, Sheriff of Nottingham, Alice in Wonderland kinds of style games. Then we go into kind of more fantasy, but a lot more magic. This could kind of halfway go between the Dungeons and Dragons style on the other side of the store and this store, but because it's not specifically about Dungeons and Dragons or is not as story driven, it ends up in fantasy. Everdale is one of the more well known of the fantasy genre, as well as Root, big one in the fantasy genre. Oath is made by the same people. It is a campaign game, super popular. Matt likes to play it a lot at Friday night board games. And then we kind of try to stick things together. So Tea Turtle games are all, or Unstable Universe, sorry. The Unstable games are all here together. And then these are all kind of about little creatures. So those are all bunched together. Then we've got the midsection between fantasy and our kind of monster and mythic gods section. This is a lot of conflict, a lot of battle, a lot of fight. Unmatched is one to know from this one for sure. It's a bigger one with a lot of games to it. King of Tokyo, Smash Up, those are big ones to know from this section that people often seek. Then you go into horror. Horror is a fairly decent sized section as well. A lot of Cthulhu. We went through a lot of this on Halloween. Probably going to be restocking a lot of that today. Let's see. There are a few things here that aren't on the licensed table that could be like The Thing, and a few other things, but sometimes you just got to make that call. So good to make note of when those things could go into two sections but are only in one. Arkham Horror is a big one for horror. And then Mansions of Madness as well is a big one for horror. More Arkham Horror. Then we kind of go into this sci-fi horror mixture. Our horror games that kind of function in both worlds, like Aliens and Zombies. So Zombicide, big one for sci-fi, big one for horror. Aliens, same deal. Then more sci-fi. Star Realms, notable one for that. Imperial Assault. Star Wars based, could be with the Star Wars stuff, but because it is not a battle game, it is over here in sci-fi, and it is also one that is not on the pop culture table. So another one to keep in mind when somebody's looking for something specific, that Star Wars and Lord of the Rings are not in pop culture. Time Stories, another great series that is sci-fi based, co-op, a lot of fun, definitely more of an experience than a game. Then board game accessories. We've got board game accessories that are anywhere from your token boxes to token holders to token organizers to sleeves for multiple different sizes that you would find in a board game. Okay, now we get into our war game section. Giant mats for that, a bunch of terrain, more terrain. Then we get into our Warhammer sections. We've got Age of Sigmar. Then we go into 40K, 40K, 40K. You can tell which one is more popular of the two. X-Wing. And then Shatterpoint and Legion, which has all been very popular here, especially since getting our custom wargame tables. Thanks to Matt and Sam. Along with these, we'll go into the paint sections. We've got Army Painter, we've got Citadel, we've got Monument, we've got Pro Acrylic, we've got, let's see, Turbo Dork. Yeah, that's a real thing. More Army Painter. Speed paints are fairly new and popular, something to keep in mind. We've got some paint collections that are made for certain minis or certain elements in different games. And then we've got little terrain accessories and tools. Everything from your little base decorators to tools to help cut a piece terrain, glue them back together, or minis or anything plastic. More of that. And then recently we have added Vallejo paints, which are top of the line. A lot of people looking for that. It took us a long time to get them. And then we also carry 2 thin coats. So all we have left to cover is our islands. This is our crime and mystery island. Anything with a crime theme or an escape style game is going to be on this fixture. So exit games are really popular for that. Our Sherlock Holmes games, Deception in Hong Kong, another good one to note. The Deckscape games, easy, cheap, good for most types of gamers. This is our heavy games, which is a figurative and literal way to look at this table. They are large and heavy, but also they are heavy in strategy and heavy in time. They take longer to set up typically. They take more strategy, more time. The gameplay is higher. The quality is bigger. Everything is just heavy. So heavy games for gamers that like a big project. Dice games, pretty self-explanatory. Everything that is based on rolling of dice or include a lot of dice are going to be in our dice game section. Dice Force is a great one to note of this one. Role Player is both in fantasy and on dice because it is about building D&D characters. We've got a lot of roll and writes as well. So whether or not they include dice, we will often put them over here because they play like a roll and write. Sometimes they are card and writes. Back to the heavy game, a couple things to note. Twilight Imperium, big, notable, popular game. And Lacerda is a well-known designer of the big and heavy games, one of Matt's favorites. So ever curious about that, I'm sure Matt would be happy to tell you about it. This is our hot and new table, which means we have several copies of each game to assuming that they're going to sell more. This table will rotate fairly frequently. Whatever comes in that is within like the last month or is still kind of hard to find or big sought after will end up on this table. And then we've got, this is a work in progress currently, but this is going to be our seasonal table. We had it stocked up for our Halloween, and now we're going to stock it up for our Christmas stocking stuffers and, great games to get for the holidays kinds of games. But that should cover pretty much everything. So if you have any additional questions, let us know. But this should be an easy reference guide if you ever need a good layout of the store.